Lisa Ngola, and he's written, I think, a book that is an important book, and it's got a very, very strong message as well. So we'll be talking about that and unpacking his book and what he wants the book to actually achieve. And he's studying as well at the moment at UCT. And of course, in the middle, PJ Powers. And PJ has not physically written a book. Her amanuensis, the person who's written the book, is at the back of the room, and that's Marianne Town. And really, really interesting, because she has written 2 biographies this year. One of them, the very controversial Paul F. Sullivan, and of course the equally controversial PJ Powers. And I probably don't need to introduce Herman Mashaba, Black Like Me, an extraordinary success story, an extraordinary achiever. And what he wants to go on achieving in South Africa is as interesting as the book that he has just written. So let's kick off and sing. And there's a huge audience, and there's the glamour and the lights and the sound and whatever. And everything looks easy and peachy and wonderful. But actually, your life has been complicated. You've been an alcoholic, for instance.
Yeah.
And that was one of, well, you still are, yes. But that is one of your great achievements, in my opinion, that you have managed to get on top of that and to do fantastic things afterwards, and also to talk about it.
Yes, I am a recovering alcoholic. I'm in my 5th year of sobriety. And talking about what we want to achieve, I think that one of the things that I want to achieve with my book is and I think that this is one of the responsibilities of role models, is to be able to convey to people that it's okay, you can fail and you can come back. I think it's a very, very important thing. And, you know, I have had a lot of challenges, and what this book has done, the other day I woke up and I said, you know, I feel as if I've portrayed to the South African public, I've lived my life like the cream on an Irish coffee. Sorry to use the word Irish coffee after your question. But I do, I feel as if I've lived, and I feel that is what I've allowed the South African public to see of me. And this book is quite scary because Marianne has dug very deep, and I'm way into the black of the coffee in this book. And I'm hoping that what I can leave behind mostly with this book is, when I read what I've done, I feel quite saddened by the fact that I didn't do it slower, that I was just like a steam train rushing through, grabbing, throwing it over my shoulder. And there's a great saying in Zulu when you say "hambagahle," and I'm sad that I didn't listen to that in my head, because this is our lives. We're living it every day, and to cherish those moments is what I've learned. So I'm going to cherish the next 30 years like hell, you know, because that's what I've learned out of this book.
Now, your background was from an early age, I think, to that sense that you could stand up in front of people and you could entertain them. And there is a huge release, is there not, when you stand up and you're entertaining, because you don't have to look at yourself. You are looking at the crowd and you are entertaining them, and you are beyond yourself. And I think that's a wonderful gift to have, but you don't necessarily come to terms with yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I think, you know, I think I developed another person when I was very young. I mean, I used to follow my sister around the house with a microphone saying, "Please interview me," when I was 5 years old, because at that age I was famous in my head. So I really was somebody else. I didn't have to address that person. But there were people in my life, and I'm very, very happy to say that in my life, in 1982, when I was embraced in Jabulani Amphitheatre into the townships, and they were also, you know, I was thinking about my own role models, and I was thinking about Lillian Kanyila, who was a woman that was my nanny. Those were those days, who instilled some kind of values into me. And in 1982, I got to see other people's values and other people's value systems and other people's, but in terms of, yes, in terms of creating another personality and being on stage, and the louder you can be, the more you don't have to pay attention to yourself, and the more everybody will, the less reflection you have to do, and the more everybody will listen. And, but it catches up, you know. I don't think there are many people that it doesn't catch up with.
I think that you stand out amongst entertainers because one of your hit songs was Jabulani.
Yes.
And I don't think that there were many white entertainers at the time that you were making your mark that were entrenching themselves in black society. You were accepted by all the South Africans.
No, there were none, aside from Johnny Clegg.
Yes,
and it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful mistake. You're so good to me. In the country, it was completely divided, you know. Radio, Xhosa played Xhosa, Zulu played Zulu, Peggy played Bennett, Spanish. Suddenly, You're So Good to Me, which was my first hit, was on the Radio Zulu charts, and I was invited into Soweto. And on that day, I was given the name Thandeka. And to a degree, I was ostracized by the whites then, but quite frankly, I didn't care, because it was a weird feeling for me, and I really mean this, it sounds trite, but I felt when I arrived, it's in my will that I want my ashes distributed, I want them sprinkled in the Jabulani Amphitheatre, because I really do believe that when I sat, that day, I feel at home in Soweto. I felt like I'd come home. I felt unconditional love. I felt for the first time nobody recognized my size. I felt for the first time I could show a little bit of myself. I felt I wasn't judged, which I'd felt my entire life. I felt embraced warmly and properly. And it was so bizarre, because it was in 1982 in South Africa, and you know, I was white, and it was 40,000 black people in front of me saying, for some reason, saying, "You're okay, we're going to take you with us." And that's what's happened in my life ever since, you know. I feel truly blessed with that. Truly, truly blessed.
It was extraordinary back in 1982. Nelson Mandela was still behind bars.
Yeah.
And the whole of the sort of the breakdown of apartheid and rising violence.
It was the most violent. I mean, that is one thing about my book, which is it's a memoir, and it's not just about me. It's set in the times of our country. So it's what it was like growing up in 1982. So it gives you a quick history, if you don't, because you know the 80s were the most violent times that our country ever went through. Those times, the 80s to the 90s, and 90s up to 94. And the book explains all of this. And we don't realize how incredibly brave we've been as South Africans, and what we've weathered, and how incredibly courageous we've been as a nation. And I do hope that this book also delivers that to the people, is that just how wonderful we are as a nation. We're a very brave people, and we still are.
Because you're in incredibly good hands with Marianne Tam, one of our finest writers. And I don't think that she would have been soft with you somehow. I think that she would have drilled you somehow. And made you look at yourself in a very hard way, but also the society that we live in. And you're in a powerful position because people look up to you, and you straddle both societies, which are gradually coming together, but not fast enough, obviously. So I think that you're in a wonderful position, and I hope some of that comes through in the book as well, because you've got very strong beliefs.
I have very, very strong beliefs, and I always have, you know. I mean, if I rewind prior to the book, you know, I never felt that it was my responsibility to write protest songs. They just happened. And, you know, in the old days, when we were censored, you had to be quite clever about it. And then later on, I remember when I witnessed the first woman being necklaced in this country, I went home. It was so strange because Chico Twala went home and he wrote, "I am a soldier. I am a soldier," you know. And I went home and wrote, "There is an answer." And it was two completely different concepts, because you know, I was saying, please, we've got to try and change this. But somehow I've always written, and that does. I think that the beauty of this book is it's bringing all of that together, and it's all in one. You know, it's in one form.
What do you want your book to do?
Well, I wanted to make people that were not aware of what was going on, who claimed they weren't aware of what was going on in the 80s and the 90s, to put their hands up and own up that it was going on in the 80s and 90s, because I believe that if you scratch beneath the surface, we all knew what was going on in the 80s and 90s. We've got to get rid of that excuse of, oh, well, I didn't know it was happening. And I think most of all, it's a book about its survival and its humility. And what I want to do is leave people with a feeling of I can. You know, that's what I can do this. And as I say, it's my responsibility. I've made huge mistakes in my life, and I think it's so trite when people ask people, have you got any regrets? And they say, no, I've learned from them all. That's, you know, no, not with me. I have some definite regrets. I may have learned from them, but I have regrets, and they're in this book. And I think some people may walk past me in a shopping centre after having read this book and may sort of walk a little to the left, or may want to slow down a little bit, not to get too close to me. But, you know, I think that's accountability, and that is what
South Africa.
I love the exceptional people that we find every now and then. I think that we've just found another one in San Luis. I really do. And every now and then we stumble across these absolutely exceptional human beings which just rise so far to the top. And young South Africans never cease to amaze me. I heard and old. I heard a story about a woman who has no water and who lives in Nkandla and who has become a lawyer in that society, so that she can help to make people aware. I think that we are a country that has some remarkable people. And I just have a slogan that I need to get this man out to hear, but I'm dying to get out there, which is, if you can't love here, don't live here.
Of course, Herman has got no idea that I get libraries built, and they cost about R1 million a time. And finally you.